Cason Wallace in his second NBA season has quickly turned into one of the better defenders across the league, which has earned him a starting role on arguably the most stacked roster in the NBA. But at just 21 years old, I think he has the potential to be a first-team all-defense type of player. At the point of attack, Wallace is an absolute monster on the ball, where he's got the foot speed to both pressure and contain the ball, while also having really sharp hands. If the offense exposes the ball in front of him for a split second, Cason's going to clamp down on it like a gator. We'll see Mike Conley here pull out to reset the offense, and notice how upright and relaxed he is, while Cason at the same time stays low, and lunges out to strike this crossover. And then even if the offense initially beats him off the dribble, Wallace can still make plays on the ball from behind. Pippen here initially beats him with this left to right crossover, but Cason still has the reach to poke the ball free from behind. On the ball, Cason also has a really good feel of angles, being able to slide and head off the offense, which normally leads to difficult shots over the top or more turnovers. This read here is low-key pretty crazy, where Cason's backpedaling and defending Pippen in transition, and he reads him cross the ball to his left. And instead of turning and opening up his stance, Cason is going to push up and stonewall this drive. And like you just saw on that last clip, Wallace has really underrated strength, which allows him to switch up and guard bigger wing scores. And while his height may be a limiting factor, his strength and low center of gravity prevents him from being bullied all the way to the basket, which again leads to more difficult off-balance jumpers. It's just him and Anthony Edwards here playing one-on-one, and Ant's initially able to lift him up with his jab step and hezzy, but watch how quickly Wallace gets back into his stance, to then move his feet and keep the ball in front, funneling Edwards into this difficult turnaround jumper. And all that strength, speed, and ability to read angles carries over to Cason's screen navigation, where he's elite at getting into the ball and blowing up different screening actions. And this is what's made other elite perimeter defenders like Jrue Holiday so impactful, because if the man guarding the ball can stay in front and prevent breakdowns on these picks, that's going to force the offense into a standstill, which as a whole will make them much easier to guard. We'll see Duncan Robinson here sprint off the spam handoff, and watch how quickly Wallace is able to eat up that space and work his way back in front of the ball. And all those tools carry over to Cason's navigation off the ball. This play here is pretty wild, where Duncan's working off his pin down, and Wallace is first able to chase him over and off the three-point line, to then also scramble down and snag this pass. Now Cason also has a major impact when defending off the ball, and this is where his basketball feel becomes a big factor, by constantly reading the offense and playing one step ahead. McDaniels, there's a deflection, Cason Wallace over the... On this play, he's running back in transition, and as the ball gets swung across to Halliburton, watch how Wallace is first going to stun up, to then jump into this passing lane. Cason's physical tools and defensive feel also makes him a monster defender in gap, where he can use those quick hands to reach down and force steals, while positionally putting himself in the right spot to both plug up driving lanes and recover back to his man on the perimeter. And Cason's speed and ability to cover ground from these spots is really impressive. Watch him here first slide down to the block to provide extra help on this drive, and when the ball gets sprayed out to the corner, Wallace is going to teleport back out and get a piece of this jumper. On a pitch for Rozier. So defensively, Cason brings everything to the table. He's got the foot and hand speed to wreak havoc at the point of attack, the physicality to both switch up and guard bigger wings, while also being able to blow up screening actions. Plus he's also got good instincts off the ball, always being early on his rotations, and constantly being in the right place at the right time. Now when switching over and looking at Cason's offense, I think he does his best work attacking the basket, where despite standing at 6'3", he's been very efficient around the rim. Off the bounce, I wouldn't say Wallace has a super dynamic or creative handle, but he does have both a quick first step and really good stability. Watch him here square up, then punch that right foot back, loading himself up to explode to the basket. And while charging downhill, he's got the control to gather the ball up and extend past the help defense for this finish. I like the footwork and balance here, where Wallace is again driving into traffic, and notice how he's going to pick up and step into contact, to then extend the ball around for this layup. And that control also makes Wallace a pretty dynamic finisher in the air. Watch him here pick up off 2 feet and explode up and into Jabari Smith's chest, to then extend the ball around with his left-hand finish. When playing downhill, Wallace also has really good touch, being comfortable sinking these 1-foot and 1-hand finishes. He's gonna first refuse this screen with a crossover, to then pick up the ball off his left foot and jump early off his right foot, which throws off the timing of the shot blocker. Now Wallace also does a ton of damage in transition, where in the open court he can generate a ton of explosiveness off the floor.
Coming out of the timeout, Cason Wallace!
And this is enough by itself to generate plenty of points. OKC's defense draws more turnovers than any team across the league, and having athletes like Wallace who can fill lanes and finish plays for sure brings a ton of value. And Cason's blend of explosiveness and balance allows him to charge up and overwhelm the backpedaling defense. Watch him here first hit this left hand in and out, to then take one dribble into contact and pick up his finish back to his right. We'll see him hit the same move here going right, where Cason again curls the ball, then explodes through this gap and shoots up for a vertical finish. On the break, Cason also loves to use these early step finishes, which is really tough to do when playing with a head of steam. We'll see him here catch while leaking out full speed, and watch him take one pound dribble to then immediately elevate up off that right foot. So besides exploding into finishes in transition, or quickly attacking matchups in open space in the half court, Wallace pretty much does the rest of his work off the ball. The Thunder obviously have a ton of individual talent, which leads to Wallace spacing the floor and getting these spot up threes. And throughout this season, his numbers have been pretty up and down. So far this year, Cason is shooting below 32% on all his catch and shoot threes, and most of his looks are pretty open. Now this is still a pretty small sample size of games, and mechanically Wallace does have good consistent form, so there is a real chance that these numbers could climb back up. And if Cason could shoot in the high 30s or low 40s from 3, I think that's really going to open up the rest of his offensive game.
Right on him, to the Clippers' credit.
Off the ball, I also think Cason is a pretty good cutter, where he's great at reading his man falling asleep and help, giving him the opportunity to cut behind. Notice here how Austin Reeves has his eyes glued on the ball, giving Wallace the opportunity to cut along the baseline. And then of course, when catching and finishing around the basket, Cason's verticality plays a major factor, where if he catches with space in front of the rim, he has no problem exploding up to the basket.
Didn't look right.
So offensively, I don't think Wallace really moves the needle much. He's got some good tools as a downhill driver and finisher, while also being very effective both on or off the ball in transition. But I think in order for Wallace to really maximize his role, he's going to have to be a more reliable three-point shooter. Because the truth is, he's going to be spending most of his offensive possessions off the ball. And simply being able to provide floor spacing will make him an even better fit with OKC's stacked roster. But considering what Cason Wallace brings on both sides of the ball, I think he's one of the better two-way role players across the league. And his defensive versatility will keep him on the floor for the rest of this year, and most likely for the playoffs. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kids should break down next. The kids here.